in the chat how well you feel your fundraising is going this year from a scale of 1 to 10. And hopefully today, we're going to be talking about Streamline Fundraising and Outreach. Today is going to be a help for you today. I'm going to show you how you can gauge on the next slide. Everybody know you're on mute. Zoom has upgraded and allowed you to click on the closed caption and you can see it in different languages, Spanish, English, France. It's incredible. We're going to send you the recording because today is going to be a great demo. We're going to send that to you later today. So be sitting by your computer waiting for that demo to come. I'm going to move out of the way and turn this over to Alexander Zones. I mean, he's incredible. Sit back, relax, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye, everybody.
All right. Thank you so much for that great introduction, Aretha. It's always a pleasure to be working with you folks. Thank you very much for that generous introduction. And yeah, thank you everybody for joining. It's really cool to see people interested in this topic. I know it's a big one, especially this time of year. People are starting to look at, Giving Tuesday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, end of year goals, all these kind of things are starting to loom large. And I know it has not been an easy year for a lot of folks in the nonprofit fundraising world. So I'm here to hopefully make your life, even if it's just a small amount easier, that little bit easier. So welcome everybody. It's great to be with you all. My name is Alex. Let's jump right into it. So we have 1 hour together today, and I want to show you what I have on my agenda. Of course, we can go off this a little bit if there are questions. I'm very happy to deviate a bit from this, but I'll start with an introduction, firstly of myself, and then of Monday.com. There may be some of you who are already using Monday.com. That's amazing if it's true. But if anyone is completely brand new to what we do, I want to give you a very quick kind of introduction so that everybody has the basic idea of what we can offer. And I also want to explain how you can apply to join our free nonprofit program. Again, there may be some of you folks who are already on our nonprofit program. If that's you, beautiful. Why not let us know in the chat like how the application process was for you? It's always, you have to hope that everyone had a good experience, but I'm pretty confident I'll get good feedback there. So let us know in the chat. And then I'll show you how you can download our donor management template. We've actually already built a solution for managing donors and donations, and it's hopefully going to make your fundraising work a lot easier. Of course, you can make custom changes and improvements to any template, including this one, but it also takes away some of that heavy lifting from those early setup days, which can be just a bit overwhelming. So I love working with templates as a base. I'm not suggesting you should stay working in a template forever, but starting off like that and seeing what it can do for you is good. And then we're going to be talking mostly today really about donors. That's really where fundraising today is going to be focused. So we'll talk about the best way to build a relationship with donors. And in my opinion, that's actually meeting your donors as much as possible. And so how do we do that? We can schedule activities with them inside a platform like Monday.com. We can also send them personalized emails because it's the real world. We can't be spending all of our time schmoozing donors. Sometimes we're going to have to do things electronically, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have to be, it doesn't mean it can't be a little bit personal along the way. I'll also show you how you can add filters to our donors CRM so that you can group donors in different ways and you can send campaigns based on those filters. I'll also show you how you can send completely automated emails without worrying about adding any of these things. We just need to set it up once and once only, and we're away laughing. And I will finish off today. Hopefully we have time for all of this. It's an action-packed schedule. I'll finish off today with dashboards and reports. So let me take a look here at the chat, which is cool. Looks like everyone's having some good experiences so far. Excellent. Melissa was rejected at first, but was able to appeal the decision. So that is excellent. Really cool. So I think that's everything in the chat. The chat's a great place to drop comments, tips for other people, that kind of thing. But if you have a question for me, the best place to put that would be in the Q&A, just like we saw in the previous slide. That'll just help me keep track of all the questions as they come through. And I will do my best to answer all the questions that come through the Q&A. I apologize in advance if for any reason we can't get to all the questions, but do keep in mind that we'll be able to follow up with you in an email, as Aretha already mentioned. And we also have dedicated Q&A sessions exclusively for TechSoup members. So more information on that later on. I'll do my best to answer all your questions live today, but just keep in mind there are a few other options there if it doesn't quite work. All right, so as we said in the chat, people are seeing me all over the place, but a quick intro from me first of all. I'm Alex, or Alexander, in the role as a nonprofit success manager at Monday for a bit more than 3 years now, but plenty of experience before that in different roles next to and in nonprofits, as a volunteer and assigning volunteers, all sorts of different roles. While at Monday, I'm mostly doing these big scalable trainings, but I've also led more personal interventions and implementations for some of the bigger names out there in the kind of nonprofit space. And a fun fact about me, which I promise is true, it's a bit of a technicality. I'm not an avionics engineer, but I did technically help to design Boeing's Dreamliner. If you want the full story, we can do that over a cup of coffee one day. But basically, I was touring the Boeing facility and they asked for feedback from people. What does this cabin make you feel? How would you improve it? And so on. Little did I know that all this feedback was going to be used in the Dreamliner project. So it's a bit of a stretch, but I was part of it. I like to say every time we fly with my wife, she's got me to thank for the shading window blinds and all that kind of stuff. All right, enough about me. What is Monday.com? Very quick slide, because I know we've got some folks in the call who are probably already Monday experts. But in one sentence, Monday.com is a cloud-based software platform where teams can build custom workflows. What exactly am I talking about? What the heck is a custom workflow? Basically, any kind of work you're looking to do, you can do it in Monday. Whether you are a small organization, a big organization, and whether you've got people in different time zones, whether you're a nonprofit or a massive, enterprise industry, Monday really does have a space for all of those different use cases. Today, obviously, we're focusing on one very specific element, right? The fundraising and outreach to donors, but you can manage almost anything your nonprofit may need to do, whether it's managing volunteers or projects or events. These are all topics, by the way, that we've either covered or have coming up with TechSoup webinars, but you can do it all on Monday. So it's a great place to start, but yeah, the sky is the limit with what you can achieve. And what I really hope out of today's session is not that you know exactly how to follow the instructions that I've given to change one status to another and set. What I really hope is not that, but rather that you've got confidence and skills to play with some of the stuff on your own, to experiment, to add your own improvements to the solution. I'll be giving some examples today, which I hope will be relevant for everybody, but of course, everyone's flow is going to be unique. So I'll be providing you with resources and yeah, I hope confidence to go and do some of the stuff on your own. That's my real mission today. Alrighty, let's get out of here, and I'm going to open a new browser now, and I want to do this with you together. Monday.com/nonprofits/eligibility. This is an important page. Basically, there is a two-step process to join us on the nonprofit program. The first step is to create your nonprofit account. And the TechSoup folk, if you'd be so kind, have a dedicated link that can be used to create an account via the TechSoup portal. So you can create your account through TechSoup. That takes just a couple of minutes. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you were to click that link, you would get a 2-week free trial. And that's great. It gives you a chance to get set up. But after 2 weeks, most users then have to go and pick a paid plan. If you are a nonprofit, however, you can visit this page where you'll be able to apply to make that nonprofit program make that account a free account on the nonprofit program. So again, 2 steps. The first is to open your account via TechSoup through the link that will be shared with you. And the second step is to apply to have your account join the nonprofit program. Both steps take no more than a couple of minutes. You can be entirely set up within that time space. Oftentimes people are approved right away. And if you are approved, if you are an eligible nonprofit, you can check out the eligibility criteria here. Pretty simple and easy to understand. Assuming you are eligible, you will receive by default 10 seats for free. If you're a bigger organization, you need to buy extra seats, you can do that with a nice discount, 70% off. People sometimes misunderstand my accent and think I'm saying 17, but no, 70. It's a pretty good one. That's all at the pro tier. And if you open your account today, you actually don't just get 10 free seats on Monday's regular work management product. Monday now has four products. And the product that we're going to be using today is actually Monday's CRM product. That's also included in the nonprofit program. So you actually end up with 10 free seats on each of the products. Theoretically, you could invite different team members to different products. So it could arguably be said that you get 40 free seats. I don't think there are many nonprofits who use all four products and have 10 different people on each one, but technically it's possible. I did help design the Dreamliner after all. So mostly we're going to be focusing today on the CRM product, where you will get 10 seats for free on the pro tier. There is one level above that. If you want to upgrade to enterprise, you can do, also with a nice discount, but it's really not necessary. Most nonprofits that we work with are down here. We have 23,000 nonprofits on the nonprofit program, and most of them pay absolutely nothing. And everything I'm going to show you today, you can do on the nonprofit program for free. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty robust. And if you haven't already, I highly recommend you take advantage of this very cool offer. We also have other resources and training and whatnot on this page. So monday.com/nonprofits has almost everything you need to know to get started. All right. So let me actually just take a quick look at the chat, see if there are any questions down there before we begin. Okay, cool. Thanks very much, folks from TechSoup, for putting in the links there. That's perfect. Looks like that's all good. And then, yeah, Brittany was referring to a different course, the task and project management course that I led. Now, that wasn't associated with TechSoup. That was a different session that I ran last night. And yeah, you're also welcome to sign up for those. They're available here in the resource center. We've got more of those coming up as well. Cool. So let's move on to talk about donors. So this is monday.com, everybody. Welcome. And what I thought we'd do is actually not work from this solution that I've already started building, but actually start from the very, very beginning. So I've got here a demonstration workspace. It's just like an organizational tool within Monday. You can have as many workspaces as you want, but it's like your filing cabinet, basically. It's easy to move things around, so don't worry too much about how you organize your workspaces, but I'm in a brand new one called Demonstration Workspace. And within that, I'm going to add here a new element. Like I said earlier, I could build out my own boards to manage my donors. But what I'm going to suggest is that we come down to the template center, and we're going to download monday.com's donor management solution. Before I do that, a really quick shout out to all the other ones that we have here. I'd love to point out that we have tons of great categories of templates, including, of course, nonprofits. These are all free. You can download as many of these as you want. And really the best thing about these templates is it's a great source of inspiration. I love getting ideas from templates. You know, you can see how other people have managed things that are similar. And then you can steal their ideas, turn them around, flip them inside out, and make your own template, make your own solution. For now, though, we'll use the donor management one, which has been downloaded by over 10,000 people already. And I'll say here, use template to download all the different elements of the solution into my specific account. Now, my account here, monday.com for nonprofits customer success, that's my account. I could invite people to it, right? I'm also on the nonprofit program, so I get 10 free seats on the CRM. Your account will be different, and when you download it to your account, only the people you've invited to your account will be able to see it. So this is a solution I've just downloaded from scratch to show you exactly how it looks straight out of the box. So it comes in a little folder like so, and then there are 5 elements within the solution. So before we get into the specifics, I thought I could start with just a very, very high level, 10 seconds on each of these boards, and then we'll dive into the details. So the solution starts off with the main CRM board, our donors board. So everybody appears here one time. We have basic information about them. And we then get to see the accumulation of all of their donations. So Leilani, for example, has given 3 different donations so far, totaling to $3,300. And this information comes from the second board. In this board, we'll see people listed more than once. And that's because this board is our list of donations. These are 3 donations by Leilani on 3 different dates of 3 different amounts, and they're all connected to her individual kind of profile as a donor. Similarly, we also have another board where we list the activities, the things that we're doing with our donors. Whether they're calls or in-person meetings, we can schedule that here as well and also connect them back to our donors. And finally, we have this dashboard, which is a kind of reporting tool. It's drawing insights from the data that we have in these other boards back here. And then the very, very last one is a getting started doc. Docs are really useful in Monday in general. You can brainstorm ideas here, and you can use them as a word processor, basically. You can add boards, docs, or dashboards of your own by clicking on the plus. But this one that we've included has some text, some articles, some links, and of course, some videos recorded by yours truly, so that if you, after today's session, still have questions about the best way to manage your donors, you can come in here and you can watch, broken down step by step, all these other little elements, which will hopefully help you get the most out of the solution. And if you prefer to, read articles, you can do that there as well. So lots of different options within the getting started doc. But let's start things off here in our donors template, first board, which is our donors solution. And as it says here in our agenda, we will begin with scheduling activities with our donors. Now, we could do that one of a couple of different ways. You might think, okay, I want to schedule an activity with a donor. I'll come to the donors activities board, and I'll come in here and add in a new activity. And you'd be right. It's a very logical way to approach it, and this works just fine. So I want to add in here the name of the donor that I want to work with, for example, Lorenzo Harvey. And the activity type may be, I'm going to schedule a meeting with Lorenzo to nurture him and encourage him to become a donor. I am going to be the owner of this task. When I click into this owner column, I see all the different people from my account, right? These are the people that I've invited, and I could tag somebody else. In fact, you know what? Let's delegate this one. It's much more efficient for me anyway to delegate this. Let's give this task to Sarah. And we'll check with Sarah, of course, that this is okay, but let's potentially schedule 14th of August at, I don't know, 10:30 in the morning. And at the moment, we have done working on it and stuck as our statuses here. Maybe I want to be a bit more flexible, and I want to edit these labels and add a new label, and I would say something like, waiting for confirmation. Because I've scheduled this, but Sarah doesn't yet know about it. So I'll put this one here as waiting for confirmation. Sarah, by the way, has been given right now automatically a notification. Up here, you can see my notifications. I have 2 unread notifications. Sarah will now see a little red one saying that someone has assigned her a new meeting with a donor, Lorenzo, for the 14th of August. So she can then come in and confirm here whether she's happy with that. Now, this is a great place to see a list of all of our activities, right? If you're trying to manage a busy schedule and you want to meet your donors as much as possible, this is a good place to see that all listed out. But it's also going to be helpful, I think, to be able to see it sort of the other way around, and to be able to see through the perspective of one donor all the things that people have scheduled with them, especially if you've got a complex team, maybe you've got people in different time zones, and you all want to be helping each other out. You want to make sure you're all pulling in the same direction. And if somebody's just scheduled a call with Lorenzo, maybe I'm going to give him a week before I pick up the phone again and ask him how he's doing and how many pets he has and how the wife and kids are, and then ask him for some money, right? We want to maybe space that out a bit. So keeping that very clear is going to be very important. So that's why if I return here to the donors board, next to each one of my donors, you can see the little speech bubble. When I click on this, it's going to open the update section and the overview. Now, this is one of my favorite features of this whole solution. To me, this is an absolute game changer. Like almost everything in Monday, this is completely customizable. But if we start up here and then we kind of work our way around in a clockwise direction, the first thing we see is the basic information, right? Madison's name, email, phone number, and how much he's given. That's like the core things I need to know in the little snapshot view. If I scroll down, I'm getting a little summary of all of the relevant information from the donations board. So at the moment, I'm seeing just one donation here that Madison gave in March. But let's actually go to the donations board now and add a new donation from Madison. So imagine that Madison walked into our office today and she slammed down a big fat check. She's a very generous donor of $2,000. And we say, thank you so much, Madison. It's a one-time donation. We can connect using this column, our donation back to Madison, the donor. And now, as soon as that connection is made, it will automatically have made changes back here. If we return to Madison's update section, we'll now see in the donations category in the bottom right here, a second donation has appeared. I didn't need to do anything to set that up. As soon as I connected the donation to the donor, it appears here with another $2,000. Oops, let's open that again. If we continue our clockwise loop, we then get to see the list of activities that we've scheduled with Madison. Now, I could add another activity here, right? We've seen adding an activity in the activities board. Now we're seeing adding an activity here in the update section, like so. But really the best way to add an activity, I think, is in this section. This is really where the magic happens. And this is the sort of feature which is completely unique to this specific product. The CRM product is the only one where you will find emails and activities. And what this allows us to do is contact our donors or indeed schedule activities in a very user-friendly interface right here on our board. So I could say, for example, that I want to schedule an activity with Madison. Here are the basic ones everyone in their account gets. But in my account, I've added a few custom activities, and you can do the same thing. I imagine that maybe this nonprofit is a nonprofit that helps homeless people, right? The best way to encourage people to give money, in my opinion, would be if you can bring as many of your donors into the sites where you're working. Help them understand the amazing work you're doing and the impact you're having in the homeless community. Have them help you out in the soup kitchen and give them a tour, for example, of the homeless shelter. So let's schedule a homeless shelter visit for Madison. I can then come in here and I can schedule exactly when that should be. Let's say Friday morning between, I don't know, 9:30 and 10 a.m. Lovely. Now, I can also add comments in here. I could say something like, Madison is a big donor for us, folks. Let's ensure she has a great visit on Friday. Okay. But I could also tag specific colleagues here and type the @ key. And our dear friend Sarah again, she's going to be a busy person. Sarah, can you please take the lead on Madison's tour? I could also, add here files and format this nicely. And I can even make this into a template, right? I can even make it dynamic. I can pull information from my board. For now, we'll leave it as a pretty simple one. And I'll add this as a new shelter visit. It's automatically added here in my main thread that we've got a shelter visit planned. And this will really help you keep track of the way you're building your relationships with your donors, because you'll be able to see this little snapshot of everything you've done with them, right? We added Madison as a donor just today, the 12th of August. A few days later, we're scheduling our first visit with her. A few days later, she's going to give her first donation. And we can sort of see that progression in this really clear visual way. Now, because we've added a shelter visit here, doesn't mean it won't also appear in our main board. If I scroll down here, there it is, Madison's shelter visit. And that also means it will appear in our donors activities board. There it is. In fact, we have the two that we just added through this update section. And as I said, this gives you the best of both worlds. It means that if you need to manage all of the activities you're doing, you come to the donors activities board and you can see the type of meeting, who's been assigned the meeting. You can see it by date, so you can track exactly when things are going to happen. But if you need to see the progress of your relationship with Madison, then you come to the donors board, you click on the update section, and you can see here all the contact and communication you've had with Madison. So that was 3 ways we can schedule activities with our donors. I know that that's often a task which just gets put in the sort of too hard pile. You've got your donors, you hope that they like you and that there's no time to schedule these kind of things with them. But if you've got a system like this behind you, you can become the donor manager of your dreams, and you can make it really organized so that once a week or once a month, you're picking up the phone, speaking to your donors, especially your big donors, and making sure that they understand the amazing work that you're doing. Connecting your donors to the work that you're able to do is magic. That's what's going to show them the return on their investment, if you like. They want to see impact. And if you can map that really directly, they're going to be wowed. Now, there are, of course, a couple more ways I want to show you how we can send emails. What I thought we would do now is just take a quick pause. I'm going to come down here into the Q&A section and see if there are any interesting questions for us. So from Pam, I can happily answer this question. Pam asked, is this donation template available on all CRM plan levels? Yes, it is. Even if you're not on a nonprofit program, you can access this. If you're on enterprise, if you're on the really, really cheap, paid version, all good. You can download that template, no worries at all. You can even, by the way, download this template on different products. Different features will be available depending on where you download it. So for example, this emails and activities one won't be available if you've downloaded it into the work management product. So if you're on the nonprofit plan and you get all these different products for free, make sure it says CRM up here in the top left, and then download the template into this product. That would be my advice. And if you're not sure how to move between products, first of all, like I said, you can check the name up here in the top left, or you can switch between different products here in these 9 dots. This is where you can switch between any of the 4 core Monday products. Okay, another question says, if we already have a CRM like Bloomerang, can this be linked so that tasks assigned to a donor's profile can be populated on the activities of Monday.com's boards? So the answer to that is theoretically yes. If you click here on the integration center, you'll see in more integrations, all the integrations we've already built. And we have already built free integrations with a lot of different tools that can help you communicate with your donors. If you're using MailChimp, for example, to send campaigns to your donors, great. Don't let me give you more work. You can continue using MailChimp and you can integrate Monday with MailChimp. Now, you can see here, Bloomerang is not one of the software that we've already built an integration with. It's just, frankly, too small for the Monday devs to invest the time. These are mostly the biggest names that are out there. Now, in cases where there isn't a integration that's been built by Monday, is supported by Monday, and is offered for free, the next kind of cab off the rank will be to check the app marketplace. Monday has an open API, meaning that smart people can build their own apps to connect Monday to other apps out there, Bloomerang, for example. Now, I also don't think anyone has built an app connecting Bloomerang to Monday, but we can check. Okay, there we go. So that was the second option. That also didn't work, but there are still, believe it or not, 2 other options. So You could consider building your own app, right? That's not impossible. It's quite a technical process, and you probably want to have a developer alongside to do that. And you'd need to speak to the folks at Bloomerang to see if they want to give you the permissions and stuff to integrate with Monday, but it's not impossible. Certainly if you have a technical team, you could build apps of your own. Probably more likely would be the fourth and final option, which would be to use a third-party integration software. There's a few examples out there. There's things like Zapier or Make, and that's exactly what they do. They take information from one platform and based on certain conditions and triggers, send information to another. So they could say, when an activity is added in Bloomerang, update my Monday board, and vice versa. That's usually not that difficult to set up, but they do charge for those connections. So that's something to keep in mind. You can also always, I guess, do it the old-fashioned way. It's very easy to upload data into Monday. So whichever software you're using, whether it's Bloomerang or anything else, if you're able to download a report from that software, whether it's a CSV or an Excel file, you can then easily upload it into Monday. That's not going to be a live sync like an integration would, but it's completely free and it's something that's very easy to do. So I guess those are your options. I gave a more kind of general answer there, but whether it's Bloomerang or anything else, that's sort of the way you should look at it, I think. Start with the regular integrations, then the app marketplace, then building your own app or a third-party integrator, and then just the old-fashioned way, downloading and uploading a report. All right. Are the notifications within Monday, or can they come to my Outlook? So by default, every notification that you receive on Monday will send you an email to the email address that you used to register for your account. You can change that setting if you want to, or we can also change the entire notifications so that rather than sending a notification, we're just sending an email. We can really do anything we like there. It's all possible. Jacob asks, is it possible to share boards between two nonprofits using Monday? So that's an interesting question. If you are the admin on two accounts, so if you worked in two different nonprofits and you wanted to move things between boards, you can do that. There is a feature, if you click on the top right here, called the, where is it now? Looks like they've just moved it around. Called the cross account copier. Maybe it's here in the administration section. Yes, there it is. Cross account copier. So you can move whole folders from one account to another if you are, like I said, an admin in both places. If you just want to be able to share the information, so you want people to be able to see that information, probably the best way to consider that would be looking, for example, let's say we wanted to share this donors board with another organization. That would be very generous and kind-hearted of you. What you can do is come up here to the three dots and share this view. This will then generate a publicly shareable link. By the way, it also generates an embed code if you want to actually put that inside your website. But I could click here on copy and then send in this link. Now, this is obviously a view-only link. They don't need to be in Monday to see this, and they can't make any changes here. And keep in mind, this is now technically public. Right? No one's going to guess this long string, but if it was to fall into the hands of someone nefarious, then they would get access to your donors list. So you want to be careful about doing that. That would be one very easy way of sharing information with another nonprofit. So I hope that answers the question. If you need some more specifics there, happy to go a bit deeper if that's helpful. And then the last question I have here in the Q&A comes from Lee. Could we use the CRM portion to track our program services if we needed to collect data and report back on their progress? And the answer is absolutely yes. The CRM is designed for managing really sales leads and contacts and closing deals, but it can be used to manage donors and donations just as well. And it can be used to manage tasks and projects and all those other things you mentioned in the question also. The CRM is kind of built on the core of Monday's work management. So I think apart from a few very unlikely exceptions, it can also do all the kind of project management stuff as well. But you also have access to all the different products. So if you prefer to manage them in a different product, you can. It's really easy to move things between products. So I really wouldn't worry too much about it. Like if you wanted to move this donor management solution to the work management product, you can do that with the click of a button. And then back again. And as soon as it comes into the new product, it'll have the unique features of that product available to it. You know, most people are paying a lot of money for the ability to do that, but on the nonprofit program, we can share it really easily. So it's pretty cool. But yes, as a simple answer, it can be done in both programs. Okay, excellent. So thank you so much for those questions in the Q&A. I know I said, encourage people to use the Q&A, but I will also check the chat here just for a second. Is there another newbie training date? Yeah, there's lots of other trainings we're doing with TechSoup, and there's also open consultation sessions, which may be useful for someone who's brand new. So yeah, the links were shared earlier on from the folks at TechSoup. You're welcome to register for those. Can you build automations to trigger activities? Can you integrate with little green light? And can you add historical activities and donations to the donor management system? So I can definitely cover all of that. So we can upload our own data very easily. Here's a list, for example, that I put together of potential donors. And you may well have a list of donors of your own that you want to upload into Monday. So all I need to do in order to bring that information into Monday is, instead of clicking here on New Donor, I could click on the drop-down triangle here and import a file. I simply have to browse my desktop for a hard copy. Here's one I created earlier. And then it's a simple matter of mapping the columns. And the system is pretty smart, right? It's looked at my spreadsheet with this potential donor information, and it's suggesting to put the name column into the donor column. And that's perfect. It's exactly what I want. Now, in my list here, I have a first name and last name column separately. Now, that's really useful so that you can reach out to donors on a more personal basis, saying, "Hi, John," rather than "Dear John Snow," which just sounds a bit more formal. Maybe that's the angle you're going for, and you can do it that way. But if you wanted to be able to have the option of the casual first name only, then you would need to separate it out into first and last names. And because I've got that ability here, but I don't have that column on the board, if I import data this way, it's going to create a new column for me, a new column called first name. But I can also map it to a different column, or I can choose to skip that information if it's not relevant to my Monday. Now, the phone and email columns have the same names already. So this is saying that the email and phone information from the spreadsheet is going to come into the email and phone columns in my board. Pretty logical. I can also manage duplicates here. And then with one more click, it's going to import the data, hopefully without any issue. Just like that, we now have all of those people entered in as potential donors. So yes, if you've got a big long list of donors, I uploaded 5 here, but you could be uploading 500 or 5,000. It would make no difference. And then we can put these donors into our pipeline and into our funnel. Once we've done that, we are probably going to want to start reaching out to our donors. So let's take a look at that. I'll put a pin in some of those questions because we are on a bit of a roll here and we don't have all the time in the world. So let's imagine we wanted to contact Rob. I've just brought him in as a potential donor. In fact, let's move all of these donors into the group called potential donors for now. This, of course, is the name of the file that I imported. And it's a very useful feature that it puts everything in its own group so things don't get mixed together, your old and your new data, before you have a chance to see that it's imported properly. But we've checked that out. It looks good. I can delete this group now. And now that I've got a big batch of potential donors, as I said, I'm going to want to start reaching out to them, hopefully adding some data into these 2 empty columns. So if I click on the update section here next to Rob's name, just like we saw earlier with the scheduling of an activity, we can also click here to write Rob an email. The email will come from either our Gmail or Outlook accounts. Gmail is completely free, so that's what I'm going to be using. And you can see I've already synced up 2 different email accounts. And I can pick whichever one I want to use. The first time you set this up, you will need to put in your email, username, and password and give it permission to speak to Monday. But once you've done that, you never need to set it up ever again. And we can actually then communicate with Rob from right here within Monday. You don't need to leave and go back to our email. We can do it from all in the same place. It's already recognized Rob's email address exists in my board, so let's put it in there, but I can change it if I need to. And then I can start writing an email to Rob. And welcome to our organization. Hi. And here I'm not going to write Rob. I've clicked on the columns and I'm going to put in here first name. Right, whatever is in the first name column, it's going to display that text here instead. So it will say, hi, Rob. It's great to have welcomed you into our potential donors group. And now we'd like to nurture you and encourage you to make your first donation. Nurture you. And so on and so on. I can delete the Monday branding, so it'll look just like any other email that I send. And yeah, having these dynamic columns make it really nice. We can really make this personal. If you've got more information about your donors, you can include it in the communications you have with them. This could then, of course, be saved as a template. And every time that somebody's added as a new donor, we could come in here and send in this email. Let's click on send just to see how it looks. It's not going to be actually sent, so we may get an error message because there is no one with that email address per se. But once the email has been sent, it will appear here right next to any other thing I've ever done with Rob. For example, scheduling a call or bringing him on a site visit. Those appear in the same list here. You can see the full content of the email. And I can see if it's been opened and track its performance. At the moment, it's just a one-off email to one person. So just checking to see that they've seen it's probably enough. But in a moment, we'll shift track and talk about those bigger campaigns. The nicest thing about this, I think, is, first of all, you don't need to leave Monday. You can do it all from right here. But the other really nice thing is that the reply that Rob makes, if he does reply, will appear both in your regular inbox. So if you're there and it opens and you start replying, it's okay. That's sort of the instinctive thing to do. But it also will appear here. And we can choose to reply to Rob here or in our regular inbox, and so on as the chain continues. This chain of communication will also be visible to everyone in your team. Everyone you've invited will be able to see this. And that sometimes freaks people out. They think, oh, I've got private stuff. You can choose to make boards private. Next to any board, we can come to the three dots and change its type to private. And that way people won't even know that board exists. But something like managing donors, nurturing them, building those relationships, scheduling activities, I think that's going to be a team effort. And I'd honestly recommend, unless you're dealing with particularly sensitive data for some reason, I would recommend building a solution like this where everybody in your team can collaborate and communicate, and they can all see what's going on. Cool. So that was, come back here. That was the first 2 points there. We scheduled activities and we sent those sort of personal emails. Hi, John, rather than hi, Jonathan Snow, or hi, new donor, right? We can be personalized. And I think it's great to be personalized. The more information you have about your donors, the more personal it can become. But personalization should never mean that you're there spending 8 or 9 hours a day handwriting personal notes. I think the days of that are well and truly gone. You never know, maybe some donors will react well to that, but I think having these automated systems is a great middle ground because it means that your donors are going to get that kick of seeing their name. Hi, Alex. People love it. We're simple creatures, but it also means you don't have to do that entirely by yourself. So it's a really, really good tool. So the next thing I would love to show you after all of this has been marked off is how to use filters to send campaigns, not just one-off emails, but wider campaigns. First of all, let's add a little bit more information perhaps about our donors. For example, maybe we want to add here, I don't know, their birthday. Yeah. Maybe you want to add, what else would be good? No, that's enough for us to demonstrate. Let's leave it like that for now. So we can add now filters to this board. And what a filter does, it's basically like a search. It searches to see if the items on the board match certain criteria. So let's imagine we wanted to send a new campaign only to our most generous donors. The moment for us, it's pretty easy. I can just, at a glance, see that Phoenix is my most generous donor. We want to build scalable solutions. And what if in a year, or 2 years, or 5 or 10, you have hundreds or thousands of donors and you can't remember who they all are? Let's be real. You're sending them these sort of fake personal emails. You want to be careful how much you spam them, of course, but the donors themselves are individuals that are part of a bigger whole. So let's come up here to the filters and say, for example, I only want to see entries in this board where the amount donated is more than $10,000. And now only one donor appears. If I was to leave this view, come back to the unfiltered view, or go to a different board, that filter has been reset, right? It's now showing me again every single donor in my list. And that's okay, right? That's actually part of the design. It means that you're not accidentally adding a filter and then coming back and being like, oh my goodness, half my data's gone, and forgetting that you'd added the filter in the first place. So the filters by default need to be saved and locked. So let's do one of those. I will probably recommend adding here a new view first. A brand new view of the same table. And then in this view, I want to filter it by, as we said, the amount donated and only show me donors where it is more than $10,000. And I will then save it as a new view. I can then rename it up here as big donors. More than $10,000 US. And this is now saved. It's living here, and it's constantly looking to see if there are new items that meet this criteria. So if someone else gives a couple of extra donations, let's add in here another new donation. Let's imagine that, let's just do Madison again. Madison Doyle has given another donation of $1,500. I don't know why. Let's actually add another 0. Let's do something crazy so we can see it's definitely over the threshold. Madison again. Another one-timer, let's say, and we can connect it to Madison, our generous donor. Because that information has changed here, if I return to the donors board, I should now see Madison has joined through the filter. So now I have 2 donors who meet this criteria that I saved in the filter, and this will now make it a lot easier to send a special dedicated email to just these donors. Because I'm on the CRM, I can click here in the top left, batch select these donors, and click here on mass email. And mass email is not a feature available in other products. So it's pretty cool. You get it for free. And this is very similar to what we did earlier when we sent that previous email. Only difference is that it's going to be going to multiple recipients. What I did just there was select everything in the group. So I only got 2. But you could select everything in the group and get 100 or 500. And so the story goes. So now I've got this becoming a mass email. I want to even more so remove the branding of Monday. And I can say things like, hi, first name. Right, we talked about the importance of the first name. This is going to really, I hope, be a compelling email. Thank you so much for your generous support over the years. To date, you've given, and I can pull information from the column. For example, the amount donated in dollars. For example, I can write an email like so. Donation again, donating again. So you can probably come up with much more compelling copy than I can, but the reason I wanted to show you this is that it is a mass email, right? It's going out to, at the moment, just 2 donors, but I could have selected any number of donors that I wanted. It's automatically pulling their email from the email field, and we are good to go. Now, you don't need to use filters in order to achieve that, but it makes it a lot easier if you're sending to the big donors to do it that way. But we could have come to the main table, and we could say, I only want to see donors in this board where what could we track here? Where the status is approved or done. So again, we don't have so much data. It's not the most complex system to manage 5 or 6 donors with names from the Game of Thrones, but being able to see it here in one place and being able to add these filters if and when I need them is a really nice feature. Alrighty, let's take a look at the Q&A again, see if we can whiz through a couple of questions. Okay, Stacy, I used the link in chat to provided to sign up. Didn't make me put in anything to check my nonprofit status. I'm leery. Is it free? No, there's no trick there, Stacy. That's just, remember, the first part of a 2-step process. So there's nothing untoward going on there. Like I said, the first step is to open your account. Everybody gets a 2-week free trial. That's why it's very easy and quick, and you just put in the name you want. The second step, come to the eligibility page. That's where you put in your nonprofit's name, and we check your validation status, and that's where it becomes free for life. So yes, 2 features there. Philip asks an excellent question about if there are AI features added in here that can help with correspondence or funding requests. So the answer is yes and no in a funny way there. Monday does have some very cool AI features that have been added. The only issue is that because most nonprofit accounts aren't paying anything for their account, and the way that AI pricing works in Monday is that everybody gets 500 actions per month for free, and then they need to pay. We've had issues rolling AI out to non-paying nonprofit accounts. Now we are aware of this issue. We're working hard. We have assurances that eventually nonprofits will have access to AI. And if you are buying a few extra seats or you've upgraded to enterprise, you will already have AI. And yes, it can definitely do that mass emails thing to help you write. So we do have it. We're just working on ensuring that all nonprofits have access to it. From Mission Possible, like the name, is there a text option for donor communication similar to the mass email function? Maybe I need a bit more clarification there. There is the mass email function. Oh, I understand. Is there a text option, meaning text messages, probably? So within Monday itself, no, there's no way to send a text message directly, but that's exactly when you would use an integration. So for example, you could integrate with Twilio. Here's one software that I know can send messages. And you could add one of these automations, right? When a new item is created, so when somebody joins your donors board, send an SMS to someone. And that would come via a Twilio account. But yes, all of these integrations are available. They're available for free. You do need probably to buy access for Twilio, right? Their pricing is their business, nothing to do with us. But at last I checked, they did have some kind of non-profit offering there. So that may be possible to take advantage of. Robert, I've received so many emails reading something like, "Hi, first name. How can we be confident that Monday will insert the first name rather than a generic first name reference?" How can you be truly, truly confident? I mean, I would say just by testing, right? Send a couple of tests yourself, and however many tests you need to see before you're comfortable, you can roll with it. I've done hundreds, thousands, probably by this stage, tens of thousands of emails, and there have been occasions when I've made a mistake, but the system itself has never made a mistake. If I tell it to pull information from a column, it pulls information from a column. I think that's pretty true across the board for most platforms. The robots don't make mistakes like that. Humans make mistakes like that. Maybe they forgot to enter in the first name properly or something along those lines. But yeah, on Monday, I've never seen an issue with that. But you can run tests if you want to and you feel comfortable. Pam asks, could you integrate a QR code on a postcard to update a donation action in Monday from a third-party app donation? Yes, theoretically, absolutely, no problem there. You could create something like that. You also, by the way, in Monday itself have QR codes. You can add forms to any one of your boards, and these forms can be shared via a QR code. Now, it's important to note you can't process donation payments in this form. We don't take credit cards, but you can share this form. So if somebody was filling out like an expression of interest, then they could click here to scan the QR code. So you could take the QR code and distribute it anywhere you need to, and then people would be able to join your organization, register for fundraising, gala, all those kind of things using the QR code. But yeah, theoretically, if you had an app which was doing that, you could also integrate it. It's technically possible. Okay, from Nafisa, I'm new to this aspect of donations. How aware do I start looking for potential donors? Well, that is really the million-dollar question, and that's not in my wheelhouse of expertise. I'm an expert on Monday.com. I'm not an expert on finding new donors. I mean, that is a tough question, and it is a good question. I think starting with your network, right, and building it out slowly is the general advice I can give. People who you trust, people who are interested in your cause, are the ones who will be your first donors. But spreading slowly out from there is never going to be easy, but having a system like this behind you will hopefully be helpful. I guess that's a question maybe for other nonprofits. They could maybe help you out there. We do, for example, have a Facebook group of about 3,500 nonprofits. If you search monday.com for nonprofits on Facebook, you'll find us. And that's the sort of question you could ask there. And maybe other people in the chat have some tips on how to find donors and grow those networks. But yeah, it's something that every nonprofit everywhere is going to be asking, I suppose. And then the final question I have here in the Q&A is from Jane. Does the subscription have to be renewed annually, or is it free forever? So there is a technical renewal. We do just run a check to make sure that your nonprofit isn't doing anything illegal or engaging in hate speech or something. But assuming that your checks are all good, you wouldn't be aware of these checks. It's just something which we run in the background. You do not need to enroll again. You do not need to renew your subscription. The subscription will roll over indefinitely without you doing anything. So again, we do run a quick check, but it's purely technical. If you are compliant, you will have access with Monday forever, and it will continue to be available. All right, my friends, we have just a couple of minutes left. So I want to return us here to our agenda and show us what we've covered so far. So we've done all of these. I want to finish with a very quick look at these other two options. And actually, no, there's one more thing I wanted to show you about mass emails as well. So what we did there by sending that big campaign of 2 to our big donors, maybe it doesn't quite count as mass to most people. But when you do send emails like that, it'll appear here in this mass email tracking tab. So I can track things like the open rate. Here we go. On the 12th of August, I sent an email with no subject, but I can see who's opened it, how many clicks they've made, And I can track the progress there of that relative to other campaigns. So I can improve and make sure my messaging is really hitting the spot. But I can also send emails that are completely automatic without me doing anything at all. And for example, maybe when a new donation is added to this board, maybe I want to automatically have it send them a thank you email. So to do that, and we'll maybe finish with this today, I'd come up here to the Automations Center. I could add a new automation from scratch, or I could use a template, for example, already built with Gmail. And I could pick this one here that's already been built. It says, once I've connected it to my email address, when a new item is created, so as soon as a new donation arrives, send an email to someone. And this is where I could say, for example, thank you for your donation. Hi, item name. We've just received a donation of donation amount on donation date and wanted to thank you very much. It will make a huge difference to the children, environment, schools, whatever it is that you're involved in doing. You can customize the text here, and then you can send it again. It can be dynamic, not to a specific person all the time, to whichever email address comes with that donation. Now, this does only work if you've got a donor's email in that field alongside your donation. But this is now a completely automatic email. As soon as a new item is created, it's going to send an email if there is value in that email column. So that's kind of the peak way of doing things, completely automated, triggered as soon as the donation comes in. So I hope that with those kind of different tiers of outreach, you can see what's possible with Monday.com, and you can really start to streamline your outreach and all your communications around fundraising. There's obviously so much more that we can do within this platform and without. And there are tons of other resources that we're offering. First of all, Bailey and Aretha have already mentioned a couple of other sessions we're doing for TechSoup people exclusively, like the upcoming Q&A sessions next week. So if there were more questions that I didn't get to in the chat, I apologize, but we do have a chance to cover those in the Q&A sessions in the coming weeks. We're also offering other trainings on different topics in the future with TechSoup, so keep an eye out there. And we also offer different trainings for all of our nonprofits, which you can find at monday.com for nonprofits. The final thing I'll say is that every user in Monday, including you as a nonprofit, also get access to free 24/7 customer support. So if you can't figure out how to do any of these things, or you can't find the recording and can't remember how I did it, simply click here on the question mark in the top right-hand corner of your platform. Come down to support and learn and chat with us. You can speak to our chat bot, first of all, or you can escalate it to a human. Like I said, any time of night or day, there is someone in the world working for Monday.com helping you answer your technical platform questions. The bot, though, does an amazing job, and most of the time you don't even need to get to them. But if you do need a bit of extra help, this is a great place to come. So I think I will leave it there for today. We did go a couple of minutes over, so thanks very much, Aretha and the whole TechSoup team for giving me a couple of minutes of bonus content. And thank you all very much for joining. You know, I know it's not easy to fundraise in today's climate, so I hope this gave you a little bit of a boost, and maybe I'll see you again on a future TechSoup session.